Okay, so I wanted to go a little over a tremendous Sforno, which I think is an amazing Sforno. On the pasuk Vatem Tili Mamleches Kohanim Kadosh, and maybe if we have time, we'll explore a little bit more than that. Start back from the previous pasuk, but this is what we'll start with the most important source, which I wanted to go through. And if you see my screen, you see on the right, you see the pasuk Vatem Tili Mamleches Kohanim Kadosh Elvei Oshet Daber Bnei Yisrael. You're going to be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. And this actually is, in my opinion, the most important pasuk in the entire Torah. I know we're not supposed to really say that, because other pasukim in Torah are supposed to be equally important. Even the pasuk Achos Loton Timna, because I'll say the pasuk says in Parshas Vayeshev that the sister of Lotan was Timna. Because I'll give a whole drush as to why that pasuk is extremely important. But nevertheless, our pasukim seem to have more profound messages, at least on the surface, than others. And this one seems to be one of them. So the Sforno says, Vatem tuli mamleches kohanim. Uvizet yu skulam ikulam. So in the previous pasuk, which again you have as the on the side here, ushmartem, as in pasuk K, it says, Ushmart abatem shamat tishma'u. B'koli, if you listen to my voice, Ushmartas b'si, and you keep my covenant, you're going to be to me a precious treasure. And school itself is an interesting word, which again, as I said, if we have time, we'll come back to. Because all the land belongs to me. So he says, what makes you a school a precious treasure, says the Sforno. With this, you're going to be a unique treasure from all the other nations. Because you're going to be a nation of priests. What does it mean, a nation of priests? So he says a nation of priests means lahavin, ularos, that we should understand and we should teach the chol hamin enoshi, all of the human race, likro b'kulam b'shem Hashem, ulavdo b'shem echad. We're supposed to be the ones who teach all of humanity to call in the name of Hashem and to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu with literally one shoulder. In other words, everybody together. Kamoshia in Yisrael Asi Levo. And that's going to be Am Yisrael's role when we reach our purpose. Obviously, well, the reason why we're on Golus all these years is because we haven't yet reached our purpose. Rosham Shvoler says the reason why Am Yisrael isn't Golus is in order that we should be able to spread the word to throughout the entire world that there is a God who has a mission and a purpose for the world, who has ideals which we want to explain and manifest in our lives so that other nations can emulate us. So Sham Shvoler says, initially, Am Yisrael is supposed to be able to do that in Eretz Yisrael, and everybody would, by example, see what to do. And there's a chazal which says that at the time the Beis Hamikdash would exist, what was anticipated should happen is that people would come to Eretz Yisrael, non-Jews, in order to trade with the Jews, and they would say, you know what, once we're in Eretz Yisrael trading, let's go up to Yerushalayim and see what the big deal is. And they'll go up to Yerushalayim, they'd see one nation with one service of God, eating the same food, having the same clothing, etc., etc. And they say, wow, what an amazing nation, let's join. And lots of Gerim will join. But that didn't work out. Didn't work out because we did not do necessarily what we're supposed to do as a nation. As a matter of fact, as we know, throughout Am Yisrael's history, there are about 40 or 50 years during the time of Shlomo and David, a little bit during the time of Yoshio, when Am Yisrael did what they're supposed to do. When Am Yisrael did what they're supposed to do and served as a role model for the rest of the world. But most of Jewish history has not been that way. So Sham Shlomo says, you know what? So therefore Hashem scattered us all around and put us in many different places. So each unit, a smaller unit, a microcosm, can serve as an example for the people amongst which they live. Again, the question is how much we succeed in doing that, but that's what our purpose is in this world, to serve as the teachers, at least the role models of what an ideal divine society looks like. And in this respect, we're all Kohanim of Hashem. And the Sforno says, everybody eventually is actually going to be this type of Kohen when Am Yisrael fulfills its destiny. The Baal Turim, if you take a look over here, says that if Am Yisrael had merited, they will all be Kohen Gedolim. And eventually this will come about again. It'll come about. We were going to be called the Kohanim of Hashem. What does it mean going to be called the Kohanim of Hashem? What does it mean going to be a Kohen Gadol? A Kohen Gadol is the spiritual leader of the nation. Right? The Navi says, "Kisif se Kohen yishmru das the Torah v'akshmi." The lips of the Kohen preserve knowledge, and Torah people come to seek from his mouth. So the Kohen Gadol is the leader, and Am Yisrael, as in its totality, is supposed to be a nation of Kohanim Gedolim, people who serve as the spiritual leaders for the entire world. In the way we live our lives, we're supposed to be an example to everybody else. So that's what the Sforno is saying, to show the entire Mina Noshli Krokulam B'Shem Hashem, Lavdo B'Shem Echad K'moshe Elin Yisrael Asi Lavo. Kukamro Atem Kohanei Hashem Tikra'u. Like it says, eventually we're going to call Kohanei Hashem, just like the Baal Turim said. Like it says, Kimitzion Teitzei Sorah. What does it mean, Kimitzion Teitzei Sorah Bar Hashem Yerushalayim? We say this all the time. What does it mean, Kimitzion Teitzei Sorah? It means that from Tzion, from the Beis HaMikdash, from the Har Bayis, the Torah will go out to all the nations of the world, not just to us. On the contrary, we're supposed to be the example to everybody else. That's our purpose in the world, to be the Kohanim who set the tone for everybody else. And that's why the most important, again, it's hard to say this, but I think the most important paragraph in all of davening, which is the mission of the Jewish people and our mission statement, is the second paragraph in Olenu. It says, we want to see the glory of your might, to remove all Bodazar from the land, to fix the world in the kingdom of, in the kingship of Hashem. That's why we're here, to fix. We want to see that to happen. We want to be participants in Lisakin Olam, to fix the world, b'malchus Shaddai. Now, it's in, by non-Orthodox Jews, they very often talk about tikkun olam, fixing the world. But fixing the world is not enough. In other words, asking tikkun olam malchus Shaddai. That means that there's a specific way of life, a specific pattern.
Do we believe in tikkun olam, or is it more non-religious?
No, we believe in God.
We believe in tikkun olam malchus Shaddai. You can't take the first part of that statement without the second part of that statement. Why specifically the name Shakai? Shindal Yud, unless to say it as part of the sentence, is usually said with a kuf instead of a dal, because it's the same Hashem. Why specifically that name? So because the Chazal says that when Kadosh Baruch Hu created the world, he said L'Olam Dai. He said to the world, enough. And there are two chazals on this. He said enough. One says there was enough concealment, enough helen, enough concealment of Kadosh Baruch Hu's presence in the world and Kadosh Baruch Hu's existence. The other chazal says there's enough revelation, enough of an obvious track that there's a God and that the God is active in this world. And on that Chazal says, "Amar lo lomo dai." Shin daled yud is a contraction of the words "Shamar lo lomo dai." He said to his world, enough. So what does that mean? It means that the world is carefully calibrated, carefully measured, that there shouldn't be too much concealment and there shouldn't be too much revelation. There should be enough revelation that if a person chooses to find God, they can find God. Enough concealment that a person chooses not to find God, they won't find God. So, but it's more than that. Shalomar Lomo Dai means that there is in every aspect of the world something which is sufficient and good, something which is too much, and something which is too little. Dai, right? This is enough. This is good. Less than that is not good. More than that is too much. And that comes back to the famous Rambam who says that you always have to follow the middle path, right? Not too much, not too little. Every midah, every trait in this world, there can be too much of something and too little of something. Too much in a person's personality, too little person's personality. So the l'shtakena lo malchus shadai means to fix the world so there's a proper balance of everything. It's a proper balance that Hashem wanted in this world. That proper balance is what we seek in Tikkun Olam, right? That it should be the Tikkun Olam Malchus Shadai. There's a fascinating Chasim Sofer. What Chasim Sofer says is about Eretz Yisrael, not about Chutz La'aretz. But it's interesting just to understand what he says in order to understand a little bit more about what our purpose in this world is. The Chasim Sofer in Maseches Sukkah, the Aflam Vav, he says that if a person lives in Eretz Yisrael, they cannot say, I'm not going to work the land or contribute meaningfully to society. Because it says that because the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael is that Eretz Yisrael should be settled properly, meaning that everything which is necessary in order to maintain a society in Eretz Yisrael should be fully realized there. So therefore, he says an amazing thing. He says a person might say, you know what, I don't want to become a farmer in Eretz Yisrael. I don't want to become a blacksmith in Eretz Yisrael. I want to just sit and learn. So the Chazal Sofer said to say that is like to say, I want to just sit and learn. I don't want to put on tefillin. So just like putting on tefillin, you have to do, even if you're sitting and learning. So too, getting a productive role in society in Eretz Yisrael is an essential part of being an observant Jew, and you cannot shirk that responsibility. Now, the Chazal Sofer, he was not like Rav Shamshfol Hirsch. He did not believe that a Chutz La'aretz that applied. He said, Chutz La'aretz is no mitzvah Yishuv Chutz La'aretz. So it's no mitzvah Yishuv Chutz La'aretz. Therefore, Chutz La'aretz, you don't have to get a job. The Chutz La'aretz you can sit and call your entire life. You don't have to contribute meaningfully to society in any other way. But in Eretz Yisrael, he held that was the case. Shamshfol Hirsch, who had the sheet of Torim Derech Eretz, we took it a step further. And he said, no matter where a person is, it's a microcosm. Every Jewish community is a microcosm of what the Jewish community should look like in an ideal situation. And therefore, every Jewish community has to have all aspects of a community with all aspects of people who are very involved in various different pursuits, contributing in a meaningful way to society. But that's whether it's only in Eretz Yisrael, whether it's Chutz La'aretz as well. The idea of the Sakeno Lo Malchus Shadai is to have a society which functions on a high divine level, and that way we are the Kohanim. We represent the Kadosh Baruch Hu to the world. We're the spiritualists of the world by having that Tikkun Olam Malchus Shadai. And as a result, as goes on in later, everybody will recognize that every knee should bend down to you, and every mouth should take its oath of allegiance to you, etc., etc. Okay, so and of course that is the time when the ultimate purpose of Am Yisrael and our mission in this world, to the extent that we can, is to be able to do that to others, for others. And so that's the first part, right? To be a Mamleches Kohanim. And then the Sforno goes on. Goy Kadosh, Biltini Sadim. You won't, if you fulfill your role as the Mamleches Kohanim, you're going to be a holy nation, which will not ever be destroyed. Avdu Kayamim La'ad Be'ish. You're going to live forever as human beings. Moshe Lasi Lavo, as will be in the eventual future. Kamova Yanish Arbi Tzion. Those who remain in Zion, that's the base of Mikdash and Yerushalayim, will be holy. And Chazal say, "Ma Kadosh Kayom Kayom," just like Kadosh, Kedusha is eternal. Avheim Olam Kayim, so too the Jewish people are eternal. Because the purpose of Hashem Torah was L'seislam as Kolatova, see, to give them all the good in the future. Egel had not that they sinned with the Egel, because on which account they lost it. So according to this, Goy Kadosh means that this nation has a promise that it's going to last forever. Just like Kedusha is eternal, so too Am Yisrael is eternal. But there's another interpretation for this, which is given by the Orach Chaim, some length, where he speaks about, here he says, Oyer Mosley, this is from the Arachaim Kosh. Fimash Rash Pasuk V'Yisim Yiskula. He explained the previous pasuk. Sheir Maz the Biruin Utzosas HaKedusha. This is a very fascinating aspect of Kabbalah. In Kabbalah, there's the concept of Biruin Utzosas. Everything in this world has sparks of Kedusha, which can be used L'Shem Shamayim. We use it the right way, right? If you use anything in this world for the right purpose, if you use the computer for the purpose of having a Zoom share, then you're uplifting the sparks of Kedusha in the computer. If you have a hamburger for the sake of heaven and make a bracha with tremendous kavanah, then you're using the hamburger uplifts all the sparks of Kedusha which it possesses. Which, by the way, off on a tangent a little bit, I don't know if I ever said this to you. This is what Hasidim are anti-vegetarian. Why are Hasidim anti-vegetarian? Kabbalists in general anti-vegetarian for the most part, because if your job in this world is to uplift sparks of Kedusha, so you want to do it as an efficient and as a manner as possible, and in a maximum manner, maximally to uplift as many in those of Kedusha as you can. So if you try to uplift all the sites of Kedusha in grass, animal fodder, or in water, you'd never be able to uplift so much sites of Kedusha because you'd have to consume vast amounts of grass, animal fodder, or water, whatever the case may be. But if you eat one hamburger, L'Shem Shamayim, think how many bushels of grass, how many bundles of animal fodder, how much water that cow has consumed. And when you eat the hamburger, you're uplifting all of those parts of Kedusha in a much more efficient way, which a vegetarian would never be able to do. A vegetarian would have to eat that many vegetables. But you, by eating meat, have been able to uplift all those sparks of Kedusha. Okay, so I'm not saying that we're really anti-vegetarian because there are obviously we don't necessarily have to be that concerned, and also our brachas on hamburgers perhaps are not exactly the ideal brachas yet. Someday they will be, which are going to uplift the sparks of holiness in the best and most efficient way. But certainly, if a person eats not l'shem shamayim, person eats just to fulfill their own bodily desires, then those sparks of Kedusha have not been uplifted. They're going to have to be recycled and uplifted again. It goes back to physics, the laws of conservation of matter, where it's all matter continues to exist. Somehow or another, it's going to have to come back in some other shape, form, and be uplifted again. So, and this is what you're supposed to do, says the Arachaim. Shemos b'rin etzotz Kedusha omro v'atem b'gomer lavdir ma'lasem v'er me'amis barer. To clarify the difference between those who clarify, to distinguish, sorry, between the level of those who clarify the nitzotzos from the nitzotzos, which are being clarified. Ki ha'mevarer yu mamleches shel Kohanim. The shel Kadosh, those who clarify the nitzotzos are the kingdom of Kohanim, the holy nation. Shem shtei madregos hakdusha amizbarin kaniskar. They are two levels of kedusha. He said the way the Orachaim explained that Mamleches Kohanim is a higher level of the leaders of the nation, and Goy Kadosh means everybody in the nation. Some people are going to be the Kohanim. Other people are going to be the not so much the Kohanim, but they're all holy. And everybody has the capacity to uplift nitzotzos of Kedusha in this world. Now, in fact, there was in the 17th century, there was a Dutch rabbi, Menashe ben Israel, who went to Oliver Cromwell and convinced Oliver Cromwell to allow the Jews back into England after a span of about 500 years, which had been 400 years, which they had been evicted from England. And one of his reasons was because he held that the Geula can't come until Am Yisrael's mevar all the nitzotzos of Kedusha, until they uplift all the sparks of holiness, which are all over the world, in all different places, and therefore Jews have to be scattered literally to the four corners of the world and uplift whatever sparks of Kedusha there are before they are able to come back there, as you saw with the Geula. And what? Well, yes, but you have to know the rest of that statement, which the Moshiach is supposed to have told the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov asked Moshiach, when are you coming? And he said, Moshiach answered, when your well springs will spread all over. And everybody will know how to unify heaven and earth like you. In other words, which is kind of depressing because that means that the way you take it for face value means everybody has to be able to make esoteric, Kabbalistic meditations, just like the Baal Shem Tov could, in order for Mashiach to come. But on a simple level, it means what Rebbe Nachman Israel said. It means that you have to be able to connect this world with the higher world. Miyachi Yichud means to unify this world and the higher world. So if everybody all over is unifying matters of this world with matters of the higher world, then we have this concept of Yedu Yachid Yichud Kamoscha, and then Mashiach can come. So yes, everybody has to be spread all over in order for that to happen. And there's the Mekubalim generally understand that that's why Am Yisrael is not allowed to go back to Egypt, because it says Vayinatzlu es Mitzrayim, they emptied out Egypt, which means according to the Mekubalim, the Am Yisrael already emptied out any possible sparks of holiness which exist in Egypt, and therefore there's a prohibition to go back there because it's unnecessary. There are no more sparks to be had. But obviously, even though it's considered to be, as a result, prohibited to go live in Egypt, through the years, Am Yisrael sometimes had no choice, as when the Rambam had to go live in Egypt. They say that the Rambam used to sign his letters. We don't know if this is actually true, but this is what they hate.
What about today?
I'm going to go and say the Rambam used to sign his letters that the Moshe ben Maimon, who sins every day by living in Egypt. So today, so Rav Yosef has a tshuva about living in Egypt today. He says that once people went back already time after the Churban Bayis Rishon to Alexandria, and later on, so now it's not necessarily advisable to be there, but it's okay, and it's a good thing the Rav Avadia passed away because Rav Avadia was the chief rabbi of Egypt for several years. So so coming back to this idea of uplifting sparks of kedusha, the way we do it again is not this Kabbalistic. It's a Kabbalistic idea, but the way we do it is by going into any situation which we can find ourselves and figuring out what is the best way to use whatever I have, whatever I've been given, whatever confronts me, whatever for the purpose of Kiddush Hashem, in order to cause there to be a Kiddush Hashem in the world. And Goy Kadosh, like the way Kohanim says that everybody in this nation has the capacity of accomplishing Kedusha. Some people are going to be perhaps great leaders, some people not, but there's nobody, no matter who they are, who doesn't have some aspect of Kedusha that they're here for. If you want to be a Makub, if you want to put in the Kabbalistic terms, some nitzotzos, some sparks that you specifically will put here to uplift. Some aspect, some task, which was meant specifically for you and no for nobody else. So everybody in the station has that idea of Kedusha, being able to uplift this world and be Mekadesh Shem Shamayim. Right? That's the idea of being a Goy Kadosh, means we can use things for the sake of heaven and uplift them in a way which uplifts the entire world. So it's interesting phenomenon is that this, according to the Sforno, and according to the idea of Mamleches Kohanim, it requires more of a going out and making an actual example. But according to the idea of Goy Kadosh says it's not just making an example, which obviously is ideal that everybody else should follow our example, but also just doing acts of Kedusha in and of themselves, uplifting this world and using the world for the purpose of heaven. That in itself is a purpose. In other words, the fact that we have Kedusha instilled in us, allows us to uplift the world even as individuals who don't necessarily come into contact directly, don't necessarily set a direct example for other people. A person could be learning in his own room by himself or doing a mitzvah by himself. And the Rambam says a person should always see himself that as if the world is half good, half bad, half merit, half demerit. And you do one mitzvah, if you do one mitzvah, you weigh down the balance of yourself and all the Jews in the entire world towards the side of good. So everybody on their own, it could be the one who's able to do that. I don't know if you all remember the important book which you probably might have read in your youth, Horton Hears a Who. Anybody here read? Everybody here, I assume, read Horton Hears a Who? No?
I didn't hear the question. Can you say it again?
Have you read Horton Hears a Who?
No, I have not read it.
Yes, I've watched it.
Well, in Horton Hears a Who, if you remember, there was one shirker named Jojo. And with that shirker, till that shirker named Jojo lifted up his voice in order to prove the existence of Whoville, the kangaroos were determined to destroy the country, the little speck of dust upon which Whoville existed. So there is...
That's a deep marshal.
What is a very deep marshal? So that idea of who, that is... the amazing thing is Dr. Seuss is able to mechaven to such a ridiculous concept. So the idea is that there is no person who's superfluous. In other words, in order for the purpose, in order for Whoville to survive, everybody has to participate in manifesting their existence and in indicating that there is significance for this nation, for this country, and therefore it can survive and thrive. So to an army, so there's nobody who doesn't have a role. Everybody is part of a Goy Kadosh. Shimon Shkop puts it, he says, in a vast machine, every single little screw and every single little bolt is essential. Otherwise, the machine breaks apart. There's no bolt which is not necessary. The way we would say today is in a circuit, every transistor is essential. Otherwise, the computer or whatever it is not going to work properly. So everybody is part of this. And this is the aspect of being a segula. A segula means a unique treasure. We have this ultimate purpose, which is everybody is a part and parcel of being the examples for the world, and not just examples, but uplifting the world by using things l'shem shemayim the way the things are supposed to be used in this world. There's Rabbi Avram, some of the Rambam says this also in his commentary on the Torah, and he says over here, Perish Mamleches Kohanim shakohen shekol eda. Mamleches Kohanim means that the Kohen of every congregation, who amanhig is the leader, shu anichbad shalah, he's the most distinguished among them. V'adugma shalah, and he's their example. Shan she'eda yochu b'chvasav, that the people of the community follow in his pathway. V'yimtzu zaderech hayosher, and they find the proper road, ayodo, through him. V'amar to you atem, you should be b'shmiras torasai, in keeping my Torah, madhige ha'olam, the leaders of the world, hayachas shalachem elehem, your relationship to the rest of the world be kiyachas ha'kohen, so like the relationship of a kohen to his congregation. Yelch olam equals same, the world following footsteps, you mechakim es ma'asechem, and they're going to follow your example. Mechakim means to copy your deeds. Yishachu v'darchechem, they walk in your pathways. Zesh kibalti befeirush mikro zeh, mean Abba Mori Zal. He says that this is what I received from my father, the Rambam. It's pshat in this pasuk. And this will be if you if you be careful to listen. Ushmartem asisem, and be careful and do. Kihi chochmaschem v'naschem. The Chumash says in Dvarim, in Perek Dal, if you do what you do, it's going to show your wisdom and your understanding in front of all the nations. And this ultimately will be fulfilled. And when we reach that level, like Hashem said through Yeshaya, many nations will go. That's the medrash. The pasuk we said before about the medrash, and eventually all the nations will come up to the Beis Hamikdash and see how Am Yisrael is Mekadosh Shem Shamayim, and everybody will eventually come to that Tikkun Olam Malchus Shaddai. So we should all be zoichet to fulfill this in our daily lives, in our every situation. We find ourselves to be always seeking to do that which is going to be Mekadosh Shem Shamayim and lead the world and everybody else in the right direction. So I tell you one thing, something else I learned today, which is relevant to this, an amazing statement by, which I saw in a commentary to Masechus Derech Eretz Zuta, which says that you're never allowed to take pride in anything you do. But what pride do you have a right to take in anything, except for one thing? You can take pride, and in other words, you can't bring attention to what you accomplished. What can you take pride in? In what you did to influence others. If I had a positive influence on somebody, so that's something I can tell other people. Because then other people will be inspired to have positive influences on other people as well. So should we all be zocheh to have positive influences, able to share that, and be able to uplift the world to the point where everybody will then follow in our footsteps in serving Kadosh Baruch Hu. Thanks, guys, for participating today.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye bye. Have a good day.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.